Welcome to Talkin' Jets. My name's Ryan and I'll be your pilot tonight. I am joined alongside our panel, Matt O'Leary and Joe Blewett. Guys, if you want to tune into their channels, their links are going to be in the description down below. Let's go around our panel and see how everyone's doing. Joe, how you doing tonight?
Doing well. Counting down 12 more games to the end of the season to see what happens in free agency and draft already. So it's great.
Oh, Matt, how you doing tonight?
Yeah, just about same here. It's depressing that we're not even at Halloween yet and we're looking at prospects, but that's the life of Jets fans, I guess.
Oh, man, I am devastated that I'm starting to think about looking at mock drafts. And we're only 4 days or 4 weeks through the season. A little bit of housekeeping, guys. Jets Talk has a sponsor for the duration of the football season. If you look right up above me, mybookie.ag. Use promo code JT to earn up to $1,000 bonus match on your first deposit with MyBookie. Go to MyBookie.ag, bet with me in this season that seems all lost. Give yourself some entertainment, possibly win some money. MyBookie.ag, promo code JT. All right, guys, I want to get your thoughts on week 4, the abomination, of this whole season, and then just seeing everything that goes on against a Denver team that really is decimated. Joe, what were your thoughts about the week 4 matchup against Denver?
I think it's been the same thing for the first 3-4 weeks of the season. It's pretty rinse and repeat. It's Gase not calling the correct plays. It's Darnold not executing when guys are open. Again, have plenty of plays of that available. Even in the sack that Darnold took, there's a wide open Lawrence Cager over the middle that he doesn't see. He actually looks at him, just decides to not throw the ball. There's been plenty of that the first couple of weeks. The Colts game, he's scrambling out to the right. You have Herndon, who's adjusts his route, is going up the right sideline, doesn't throw the ball. We saw that again week 1 with Crowder. So you have Darnold not executing. You have Gase not calling the correct plays. I'm not sure how much he's giving Darnold freedom to adjust his reads, pre-snap to post-snap, where post-snap he sees something, or pre-snap he sees some leverages that he should adjust the way he reads his route combinations. And his eyes will be locked on a certain side of the field where they shouldn't be. Takes too long to read that side. Guys open on the other side. I have a good example of that in the red zone if you want to pull that up later. So Darnold not executing, Gase not calling the correct plays. You have Becton coming into the game as an emergency backup, which is the absolute joke, which is a problem with Gase still being here. A guy who's trying to win now with a young team. You want to see the young guys. You want to see him not risking injury. So that's a problem. Darnold coming back into the game, an issue. Now it's irresponsible or whatever to play Darnold this week, but it wasn't when he got hurt in the actual game. So it doesn't make a lot of sense. The defense is absolutely dreadful, getting ripped up by Brett Rippon. You have Desir, who had 2 picks, but they were gimmies. So the whole team is bad. There's no pass rush. The linebackers are so damn slow. They're built for 1980. The secondary is dreadful. The offensive line's taking steps up, but you have Gore, who can't bend the run back because he's so laterally unathletic. There's a lot of problems with this team. The positives of it, Quinn and Williams, minus a penalty or 2, but the penalties were bang plays. It's something that's really hard to avoid, in my opinion. Crowder, Jeff Smith were positives, but other than that, you got beat by a 0-3 Denver team who was down to the 3rd and 4th string guys all over the team. So, yeah,
they're basically the Jets West Coast. They're missing their top 2 wide receivers with Sutton. Then you're missing Phillip Lindsay. They're on their backup quarterback or 3rd string quarterback, undrafted guy. There's no reason he should have been able to scorch the Jets the way they did. Matt, what were your thoughts on week 4?
Yeah, I mean, Joe hit on a lot of the stuff tremendously. The same stuck out to me. Bad play calling. The wheel route with not Le'Veon Bell. I wish it was Le'Veon Bell. With Frank Gore is just wild how that's being called. My biggest issue was with Darnold coming back into the game and Mekhi Becton coming back or being put into that game. If he's not healthy enough to start, he probably should not be healthy enough to dress. I understand they don't have a ton of depth at that left tackle position, which could be put in there. I mean, after Chumadoga gets hurt, 4 plays into the game or whatever it was. To me, it was just reckless. And that's just another thing on the laundry list of reasons why Adam Gase is not a good head football coach, why he's lost. And, it was ugly against a team that probably, on paper, looking at this schedule, that was probably your best chance for a win for a long time.
Yeah, for me, the biggest takeaway, I think, aside from like, man, we stink, is just the Becton and Darnold things. Now, I'll say this, I was excited to see Darnold back in the game because I thought he broke his collarbone. So to get him back in, gave me a little bit of hope long term. But again, if he's not ready to play, or his precautions not playing this week, why was he ever put in that game last week? Like, that should have been the red flag right there. And then with Becton, there's just no reason to have your emergency left tackle go in 4 plays into the game, 5 plays into the game, and expect him to finish out that game when he wasn't supposed to be playing at all. You should have put in McDermott to start, or not to start, but once Udoka went down. And to me, this is a big issue with the weird hierarchy that the Jets have, because Gase is playing, or is fighting for his job. He's going to try and win which way he can, and putting Becton in is easily the better player between him and McDermott. And I think when you have a GM and a head coach that aren't necessarily aligned, I think this was probably one of the closer times that we've had him aligned, because Gase, in some roundabout way, brought in Douglas or approved of Douglas coming in. But there's issues with the timing here, and I think when Gase has to have his back against the wall, it leads to poor decisions for a roster that needs to be nurtured, that needs to be groomed. You want to see these young players grow. Frank Gore playing as many snaps as he does, regardless of if it was lower this week than it was the week before. I don't know exactly what the snap count was offhand, but for Frank Gore to get as many touches as he is, with P. Ryan, not getting those touches, seems like a disservice to this roster. And I'm feeling like I'm getting an incomplete picture overall of this team. I want to get excited for the young rookies. I think this week, correct me if I'm wrong, Mims is coming back. Is Perriman coming back? Is Bell this week or next week? Do you guys know?
I know they're all eligible to return. I don't know if they actually are returning, though.
Okay. I think we'll probably hear a little bit more about that Wednesday, I would think tomorrow. Generally, whoever starts going through the walkthroughs then is usually who we're looking towards for starters. I agree with Joe that the whole Desir thing with the interceptions, after the game, I said this had to be the best performance I've ever seen. It was like the guy almost had 3 interceptions, 1 for a touchdown, and then would have just given up the 1 touchdown. But the picks he had, one was a clear throwaway that was just a terribly thrown throwaway, and it was an amazing catch, like top 10 catch in that entire game, easily, probably the best catch in the entire game. But then you have the
discrediting Crowder on that one, but it's okay.
Okay, you know what? That was crap. I don't know. That was a really friggin' phenomenal interception. It's like right there. But then you see who was the defensive lineman that pushed the lineman back into Rippin on the second interception that Desir had. I don't know who was coming off that right side, but it pushed him right back into it. A guy made a bad throw, and he just kind of was there to catch it. I don't think it was any sort of good coverage from him at all. Yeah, God, this team stinks, and there's not too much hope. I don't see the hope in any games coming forward. Like, maybe you win one of the 2 Miami games, but Miami looks like it's a more disciplined football team, especially from a penalty standpoint. Like, for me, the big issues is penalties are things that's coaching, that's coming in a step slower, getting those personal fouls. I do think the Quinnen Williams ones were, at least the first one, the roughing the passer where he landed on him, I thought was ticky-tacky. I don't think you necessarily needed to throw that. I think a better team maybe gets a benefit of the doubt and doesn't get that flag thrown. Where the one with the face mask, he shouldn't go that high on Rippin, but I think I can forgive probably both of those. But the penalties across the board, we're just giving up 100 yards a game in penalties and just excessive first downs. And, is there a solution to this, Joe? What should we expect?
I don't think under Greg Williams, a team who's going to have a lot of personal fouls. That's how Greg Williams coaches. It's not why a lot of coaches around the league respect him. That's probably why Fangio walked out. Plus, it was probably a combination of McClendon at the end of the game, the personal fouls, and then Gase, calling timeouts, and you're down 2 scores with a minute left in the game. So that's kind of how the team is coached. I don't think it's really going to change. A lot of the personal fouls were stupid. Ogletree, after that one play, multiple times this year where you have guys taking 2-3 steps after the quarterback delivers the ball and hitting the quarterback. Again, with Quinnen Williams, in my opinion, he was going towards the chest area. You have Brett Rippon, who was trying to turn out left, ducked his head to turn out to condense his body. Quinn Williams' hands landed high, but again, it's a bang play, so I'm not going to kill him for that. I just can't do that. So I think Quinn Williams played well, but you're looking at an undisciplined team, an unmotivated team. So are the penalties going to fix themselves? Probably not, to be completely honest. And I think the Jets could have won this game if it wasn't for penalties. But at this point in the season, heart versus head, you go into the game, you want them to win because you're a Jets fan. But at the same time, with your head, if you can pick the Jets to go 0-16 right now and finish with the first pick, regardless of what your thoughts are on Darnold, which I'm sure we'll get into, finishing the first pick's a lot better than the 5th or 6th pick. So do I really want to win a game for the rest of the year? Beat Miami? No. Maybe if they could beat one team in the league this year, it's Seattle. But that's about it. So
just the one game.
If we
go
could
1-15, get the first
number
pick.
one pick, yeah, that's fine with me.
Matt, what do you think about the penalties and what you saw?
Yeah, I mean, this is just it goes back to coaching. Like, Greg Williams is known for this. Like, this shouldn't be a surprise. Last year, I mean, he got a ton out of that unit. There's no denying that. But his teams always play like that. And now, like, they are playing poorly and they just look frustrated. And it's just, a culmination of everything coming out at one time. And like Joe said, I don't see this being fixed until, a new coach is in here or a new voice, because that's just how they're coached. And that's how Greg likes to run it. And sure, maybe that could work in small sample sizes, but I mean, I think there's a reason why he doesn't last very long in pieces. He's usually 2 years and out kind of a guy. And I think his act kind of runs its course rather quickly. And we're starting to see that now already in year 2.
Yeah. I think that's probably, this is going to be Greg Williams' last year. I don't think they'll keep him with whoever the head coach is next year.
No.
Do you think there's any situation where Gase doesn't get canned at the end of the year?
No, I'm done at that point. I would be done. I really don't know how I could do it another year with Gase. Like, the rest of the season is going to be hard with Gase. The only bright side, again, is you have the worst coach in the NFL coaching your team. So if you want 0-16, that's the benefit of it. But the only way Greg Williams is here is if the Johnsons force another coach on the coach who's coming in, which in turn will mean that we get our 4th or 5th option, not our 1st or 2nd option, because Matt Rule would have been the coach of the Jets if they just let him pick his coaching staff, which is an absolute joke because you trust the head coach to coach your team, but he can't pick his staff, which makes no sense. So if any one of these guys, minus like Boyer, are here, maybe a couple of other guys, position guys, maybe what the D-line coaches, Andre Carter, Sean Jefferson, like some of those guys are holdovers. I'm fine with those guys, but if Greg Williams or Gase are here, we have massive problems because, like Matt said, his shtick kind of wears out after a year or two. You get the rah-rah guy, but it wears out. Same thing with Harbaugh with the 49ers. He wore out. Those guys do wear out. So I want a player, coach, a guy who can manage a team, things like that, not an undisciplined team. And Greg Williams has had some issues too. I know I'm going into a little bit of a different direction, but Greg Williams has issues with his defense in terms of both the undisciplined nature that it has and the fact that he has to run a lot of zone because the guys can't match man a lot because they're just that bad. The linebackers are that slow. But at the same time, a lot of the problems he had in previous stops where people figure him out and they attack the linebackers because he too frequently has his linebackers spot dropping, covering grass, which is not the way of the NFL now. It's a lot of zone match principles, which you match the 1 to the 2 to the 3 to the 2, all that stuff. Greg Williams drops guys, into their certain spots. They cover that area. They don't match guys, and then teams just shred them apart. That's why you see a lot of completions on the Jets, and it's stick routes, snags. It's a lot of things over the middle where 2 linebackers are standing to each side of them, and they never match the guy, who's coming into their zones because that's how NFL is played nowadays. But Greg Williams is not up to that par right now. So he's always been a decent defensive coordinator, but just he's average. He's not elite. He's not great. It's just not. The end of last year was a fluke. Let's be completely honest with a lot of the teams they were playing, the quarterbacks they were playing. You just got to look at it not through green glasses.
Yeah, I think that's important to note. When you look at last year's team, you had 7-9 as the overall record, but I mean, one of the weakest schedules in the league last year. You go into that Pittsburgh game, week 16, you're playing a third-string quarterback. You go into week 17, you're playing all the Bills' backups. This team really should have been 5-11, and then to see this team go against a schedule that is now one of the hardest in the leagues, I think it sort of puts a little more substance to why this team is as bad as it is. I guess this is a good transition as far as coaching for next year. Are there names that you guys are particularly looking at? Is there one, lead guy for you, or are there a few guys? Matt, I'll kick it to you first. What are you thinking in terms of coaching?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys who are coming up. Eric Bieniemy is one who gets brought up a ton. I do like him a lot. I think that people try to diminish what he's done with Kansas City because he's not necessarily calling plays a ton. He has called plays for them. I mean, we saw I think it was the divisional round last year, him calling plays. But anyway, I like him a lot. I like what Greg Roman's done with Lamar Jackson, just completely revamping that offense. We talked about player coaches, earlier. I think if you wanted to go the college route, maybe he's not Matt Rule, but PJ Fleck's a guy who's able to get guys to buy in. And I think what he's been able to do, turning that program around there, Minnesota's been pretty interesting. So those are probably my top three. We'll see. Arthur Smith's another name who's starting to come up a little bit. The OC with Tennessee, he's done a really nice job with Tannehill. So maybe if for whatever reason Sam Darnold's here next year, maybe they could go that route and see. You fixed Gase's mess last time with Tannehill. Maybe you could do it again with Darnold. I don't know. He's probably fourth on my list of the four that I just mentioned, but those are kind of the front runners for me right now.
Joe, what about you? Who are you kind of keeping an eye on?
Yeah, Arthur Smith's the name to watch, just how he's helped Tannehill. Bieniemy's another name to watch, more because of his leadership. Again, like Matt said, he did call some plays, but I would like to look into more of the who, what, when, where, why, exactly what he called, because obviously taking, coordinators under their head coach's specialty always worries me a little bit. It is a worry you have to have how much he actually does call the play, even if he did call a game or two. How much is it influenced by reads, the game planning, all that stuff. You have to take that in consideration. So I think he's a option. I don't think he's the legit number one top flight guy. No, can't fail. I don't think there's a guy out there like that. Another guy who I liked last year, Todd Monken, who's turned some college programs around, who had a really good offense with Jameis Winston, who's obviously not a good quarterback, Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's not a good quarterback. So he's a name I like, bring back from the college ranks. I forget where he is now. Joe Brady is a guy who I think some people are kind of letting him kind of bake a little bit more. Like he seems like a guy who might be ready in 2-3 years, but he's a name to watch if they do want to pull him out of Carolina early. And then a guy, people talk about Roman. I think Roman's okay, like as an option, but a lot of his success has come with running quarterbacks. So depending on who the Jets have next year, and even in the Chiefs game Thursday night, didn't Lamar Jackson have like 98 yards passing and didn't look very good? So like, yeah, he's an option, but taking that principle away, the running ability of quarterbacks, it really simplifies your reads when you have the ability to run RPOs and read options. It takes a linebacker, out of the box. It takes a lot of things off the table that the defense can do to combat your offense. So if he doesn't have that, how successful will he be? So I see him as an option, not a great option. And then another guy who I think people are starting to mention too is Brian Dable from the Bills. What he's done with Josh Allen, and watching that offense week one against the Jets and watching them multiple times the last couple of years, he really simplifies things for Josh Allen. And Josh Allen has looked like a top 10, top 5 quarterback this year for a guy who people thought was going to be a bust coming into the draft. That's a lot of Dable because McDermott's a defensive guy. So he's a name you have to watch as well. So Dable, Smith, Bieniemy, Monken are probably my top 4 that I would say.
Yeah, that's rock solid. I would say I like Dable a lot. I think that's one that makes sense. You keep him in the division. Hopefully there's a little bit of insight that he could provide into what Josh Allen does, poorly, and then maybe the Jets could attack something like that. For me, I brought it up to Joe earlier. I would like someone that could bring in like legitimacy to this team and make us not a laughing stock. And I feel like if you could somehow coerce Urban Meyer to come out of retirement and just throw a ton of money at him to come out, I think the college players would love him. He's had success at Florida. He's had success at Ohio State. Now that I think is probably a little far-fetched. I know he was trying to get the Dallas job, I think, this past year. So, I think he's got a little bit of an itch. Maybe if you have the first overall pick, that becomes a little more enticing. I think where the Jets finish is going to sort of dictate what our coaching situation is going to look like, because I could see the Titans OC being our head coach if we do not get the first overall pick. I could see possibly Greg Roman or maybe someone from the college rank, someone like I don't think Lincoln Riley's leaving Oklahoma.
Probably
I think
a second tier option.
Pipe dream. Yeah, I think anyone who's interested in getting Lawrence will look at the Jets if we have the first pick, and then will be super enticing. If the Jets are rolling out Sam Darnold again, I think you probably have to be a little more careful with where you're going. Maybe that's where Daboll and what's the Titans coordinator? Arthur
Smith.
Arthur Smith. So I don't know. I guess if I had to pick one, Urban Meyer would be really cool to get. I think it's pretty unlikely. I think there's one name that I've heard tossed around that we were talking about a little bit yesterday on the show, was Doug Pederson. Apparently his contract is up at the end of the year, and Philly is, while they have a Super Bowl under him, they're kind of lukewarm on the guy. And with, Douglas coming from the Eagles most recently, is there some type of connection there? Kind of like with the Greg Roman thing, having the Baltimore connection. Not that he ever worked with Roman, but I think there's little connections you can possibly draw. I don't know. What would you guys think of Pederson if somehow we were able to get him? Good, bad, indifferent? Joe?
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of it, especially when you have coaches who are failing at the current moment. A lot of people say give them a year or two to kind of readjust their schemes and things like that and come back. So taking a guy who's failing with the Eagles, who had high potential this year, I know they have injuries and things like that, and putting him onto the Jets, I don't think it's a great option. And honestly, he lost a lot of respect from me in that game against the Bengals. You can kick whatever it was, a 60-yard field goal with your field goal kicker, or you can throw a Hail Mary. Regardless, you're playing to win the game, literally like Herm Edwards said, or you punt the ball for a tie or to lose. Like you got to try to win the game at that point against a Bengals team, for a team who has expectations of the playoffs and who won the Super Bowl, etc. Has absolutely no cap space. So they're a team who's going for it. They're like the worst going for it team out there because they have no room to do anything. But no, I don't want Pederson. It's not a name that really entices me too much. He had that good Super Bowl run, but since then the Eagles have been pretty bad in a really bad division.
Yeah. Matt, what do you think about Pederson?
Yeah, I think he's probably someone who needs a year. Like Joe said, he does some things that intrigue me. Now, I don't know how much of it's on him and how much of it's from other areas, but I think I like his aggressiveness at times. Obviously, Joe just gave an example where he wasn't. But I like how, a couple of years ago, he was on the forefront of like going forward on 4th and short situations, which I thought was interesting. Again, I don't know how much of that is coming from him directly or, from other areas of leadership, but I like the analytics perspective from that he's shown at least, but I don't know if he's the perfect fit. He would be pretty far down the list for me.
Fair enough. Nose Kills, thank you for the super chat. He says, hi from Finland. Got to add that to the map. Got to figure out where Finland is on that, that thing. This team is not built well. If you change coaches now, is there a danger that if and when the team keeps losing, we'll already be doubting the new coach by the time we enter the offseason? So I don't think anyone who becomes the interim head coach, which would most likely be Greg Williams, he's not going to be here next year. They'll move on from him. They'll bring in someone new. That said, I don't want to watch an entire season with Gase, but I think Gase probably gives us the best shot at getting that number 1 overall pick. Joe, what do you think about that?
Yeah, if you want the number 1 pick, I think he's definitely the best option. But from an actual ownership perspective, should they fire Gase and get new lifeblood in there, get a new play caller in there, see if you can help Darnold out more, see if you can salvage Sam Darnold, because he has a lot to prove in the last 12 games, increase the morale of the locker room. But I think that stuff is important. Yes, I do. So from a team perspective, should they fire him? Yes. And in terms of if you change coaches now, is there a danger that when the team keeps losing, we'll already be doubting the new coach? No, I think you have to take it into perspective what the coach is calling it and the talent around him. You can't just say, okay, they finished whatever 2-12. It's a terrible coach, but no, look at his calls. Are the guys getting open? Are they not executing? What is it? There's a lot of factors into it minus the record. If you're a bad team, you're a bad team. So, and regardless, the new coach, whoever gets put onto that pedestal, if Gase is fired, which doesn't seem like he's going to be, they're not going to be here next year anyway. So who cares? I want Gase fired just for the comfort of knowing he's gone forever. But at the same time, like you said, 0-16 or 1-15, 2-14, get a number 1 overall pick. Like you said, is very enticing to a new coach. Trust me, the first pick versus the 5th, 6th pick is a lot more enticing for a coach, especially when you have a prospect in Lawrence who is as highly touted as Luck. And I know people say, the Darnold was the same thing. Listen, Darnold was highly touted coming out of college, but if he was that highly touted, he wouldn't have been the 3rd pick. He would have been the 1st pick, so he wasn't that as highly touted as a guy in Lawrence. So Lawrence is clear fire, the number 1 pick. And if you have that, which I'm sure we'll discuss, you can either trade down, get a lot of picks for that, or you take Lawrence. So,
Matt, what do you think about all that?
Yeah, I would fire him, and I think you owe it to Sam Darnold to try to salvage him. And I think the best situation for Sam Darnold, whether Christopher Johnson wants to believe it or not, is getting away from Adam Gase as soon as possible. And yeah, maybe Jim Bob Cooter calling plays doesn't save Sam Darnold's Jets career, but I think it's worth the shot. I think just continuing to run this back for the next 12 weeks or 12 games is not going to help anything. I think you're just wasting time, and I would rather make the change. And if they stink and go, I don't know, 2-10 in their last 12 games, then okay, fine. What's the difference? We've seen now over a year and 4 games what Adam Gase has done with this team. We knew he was bad in Miami, and he's been really bad with the Jets. So I just think we're, spinning our tires here if we're just going to keep sticking with Gase.
Yeah, for me, I really want to see what Sam is, and I know that's tough to say because you're going into you're a quarter of the way through his 3rd year at this point, and special players kind of show out early on, and if you're not really seeing it, how much of it is the lack of talent on the team, how much of it is the coaching? I think getting rid of Gase, allowing Jim Bob Cooter to call the plays, let Greg Williams kind of take over the team, at least that gives you another look at Sam before you have to make the really difficult decision of keeping that number 1 pick or trading out of it. Or, I mean, heck, if the Jets wind up with like the 3rd pick and now maybe they're not getting Trevor Lawrence, but maybe they're looking at, a Trey Lance or, Justin Fields or something like that, do they wind up making that decision with the new head coach? It's a really interesting situation. And I would like to see Sam under different leadership. I still want to see Sam with these weapons coming back. I want to see him with a healthy Perriman. I want to see him with Mims. That's like the big thing. But are we ready? And I guess we could sort of start to go into this a little bit. But are we ready to shut the door on Sam if he starts looking good, but we still wind up with that number 1 overall pick? We'll start getting into that, but I want to get to some of these super chats real quick. Elijah, thank you for the super chat. He says, I want to see Lincoln Riley or Greg Roman with Trevor, Trey, Justin, or Sam. Do you think that Trevor can fix his flaws with one of those guys being his coach? I'll be honest, I don't know Joe, have you watched much of Trevor Lawrence and broken down any of his tape yet? Or
no,
would you be able to tell me?
I'm very upfront with that stuff. Until I really, really watch a guy, I'm not going to tell you exactly what I think of him because I feel like it's irresponsible if people actually look to my film stuff for my opinion. So I'll watch him and I'll have a 16-hour show on him, I'm sure, this offseason, so you can watch that. But no, I don't really know exactly. Okay, I'm not going to say, oh, well, he doesn't go through reads quickly or his footwork through progressions isn't good. Like, I don't want to just make up stuff that I'm looking up on NFL.com. So no.
Yeah, so when I look at Trevor Lawrence just from purely from highlights, I haven't tried to look into anything further than that because I didn't think Lawrence was going to be an option until probably 2 weeks ago. But when I look at him, I mean, he seems pretty legit. Dude's tall, he's fast, he's got a cannon for an arm. So I understand why people want him. What his flaws are, I do not know. I don't know what we'd be trying to coach out of him. Matt, any insight on what that may mean?
No, I'm not really a film guy to begin with, but I have not seen enough of him to make that kind of a judgment. I think he is a very good prospect from everything that I have heard and from what I have seen watching him. I really don't know how many flaws that he has. He seems like a high floor kind of a prospect, which is enticing, but I don't know. It's a tough call. We're gonna get into that conversation, sure. I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Jeffrey Lance, thank you for the super chat. He says Jim Harbaugh could succeed with Darnold or Lawrence. I think Jim could succeed with, I don't want to say any quarterback, but the guy has shown, an adept knowledge at the quarterback position, and he had luck at Stanford. Well, yeah, that's true. Michigan has not been the team that they were hoping when they brought him in, and that's a concern too because he has all the power of recruiting. Like, how is he going to fare in an NFL where now you're cap driven, you don't have to necessarily recruit. I guess you're recruiting a little bit with free agency, but you're kind of more drafting guys. And I think I like Harbaugh. I wouldn't be upset with the hire, but I think he's like the offensive version of Greg Williams, where he just rubs people the wrong way after 2-3 years and he's out anyway. Like, I don't think you're getting a long-term coach with Harbaugh. Matt, what do you think about Harbaugh?
Yeah, I'm not really a big hardball guy. I think his lack of development of Shea Patterson was pretty scary. People talk about the Michigan recruiting class most years, and they're like, oh, they have a really good recruiting class. They should be really good this year. And it seems like every year he's been there, they've underachieved. Um, he's a big name, a polarizing guy. I understand why some people like him. I think his biggest success is in his rear view pretty far now at this point. I don't think his stay at Michigan's been very good, so I'm not really too high on him.
Joe,
Yeah,
I'm
I'm completely out on Jim. I just like you said, his success was 5, 6, 7 years ago. He's done nothing impressive at Michigan. So you're plus that you're bringing in a guy who clearly rubs people in the wrong way after having a coach who is also clearly rubbing people in the wrong way. Let's not do that again. You want a leader of men. You don't want these guys who are narcissistic assholes. Let's just be honest. I'm out on that. Completely out. I wouldn't be happy at all.
Yeah, I would say there's definitely similarities in the personality of Gase and Harbaugh in that respect. Like, I think he's probably going to be stubborn to a fault. And for me, not that I need a player's coach, but I want someone that can rally the troops. Someone that, like, I don't know, it just isn't Todd Bowles. It isn't Adam Gase. I just want to see someone with a little bit of energy. I don't know.
I just want a good coach. I don't necessarily care exactly what they are, but they need to be a leader of men first and foremost. That's really important. You need to be the overseer of all the other coaches, and you can't just do defense, just do offense. I want a guy who's going to manage the entire team, not just his side of the ball, and basically have 2 head coaches. You need a leader, and we haven't had one of those recently. So it's a big part of what I'm looking at. It's why guys like Joe Brady and even Todd Monken, who's turned programs around. It's why Matt Rule was a really good coaching candidate, but obviously the Jets completely screwed that up. But Jim Harbaugh is not that guy. It's not happening.
Yeah, I think the ability to lead a room or to at least motivate players, like, it doesn't feel like Gase is a motivator. Like, I don't want to say I don't see the effort, because I feel like these guys are trying to give 100% effort. Maybe they're not being put in the right situations, or maybe we're just bringing in the wrong kinds of guys, or I don't know. I don't know exactly what's going on here, but it doesn't seem like we're getting 100% effort out of these guys. Like, when I saw Rex coaching this team, I know we may not have been great teams, but it felt like these guys were ready to run through a brick wall for Rex. And it doesn't feel like that's been the case with Gase. Maybe some of the defensive players under Bowles, I think had a little bit of fire underneath them, but I want a passionate guy, not somewhere between, Bowles and Rex, I think is probably the happy medium that I'd like to see. The New York Bully, thank you for the super chat. He says, I'm not a prisoner of the moment, but I always thought Darnold had bad mechanics. If we can get Trevor, we should. So I guess that's a good stepping off
Pandora's
point.
box right there, huh?
Let's go for it. Let me see which one I had this on. Was it this one? Nope. Okay, I got to make a new topic. Yeah, let's talk about the whole Sam Darnold's future. What do we think is Sam's future here with the Jets or the NFL in general? Joe, what's your gut feeling on this topic?
This is a beyond loaded question. It's 8:37,
it's gonna be tough.
So we have until 10 o'clock, right?
Oh, yeah.
You can obviously say that Darnold's been ruined by his surroundings, but I think to get to the core of it, he's clearly damaged goods at this point. He's not making throws he would have made his rookie year. Sam Darnold of 2018 is a better Sam Darnold than 2020. And whether you base that completely on coaching, I think that's not the way to look at it, because I could show you, again, there's 100, and you can just go to the videos I've done, go to Sam Darnold segment for 30 minutes and see plays that he's just completely missing, whether that be on footwork, not transitioning his feet through reads, so he's not ready to throw the ball. His mechanics have gotten worse. His lack of confidence to pull the trigger when he should pull the trigger. His ability, the fact that he's pressing to make plays, which could be a consequence of the team around him and him being down so much, which I get. But there's just so many plays that are available on the field that he's not making. Like I said, Lawrence Cager wide open on a dig route. He sees it, doesn't throw the ball. I believe the Colts game, you have Barrios over the middle, who has leverage on a linebacker. Barrios is running across the middle. The linebacker's flat-footed. He could have easily thrown the ball, got a first down. Even after that, he scrambles out. He could have floated it over 2 guys to Barrios, and it would have been an easy, with 10 yards around him, completion. There was a play where Barrios is pointing out a potential cat blitz from a corner, and then Darnold rolls out, sees the cap blitz coming, but doesn't deliver the ball to Barrios where he should have been able to float it over the defender, run for a first down. Instead, he took the sack. Whatever I think whatever DB it was who got the sack in the Colts game last game. So Darnold's been missing a ton of plays. And I think it's undoubtable right now to say that he's damaged goods from what he was in 2018. And now you're looking at paying him $25 to $30 million, let's say, right in that range. Probably, let's just say it's even $25 million. You're looking at paying $25 million to a guy who's damaged goods. How many quarterbacks after their first couple of years who have not produced or who have produced like Sam Darnold has, regardless of the situation, have turned it around? There's been two guys in my mind that I think of: Drew Brees, Alex Smith. I don't think you're winning a lot with Alex Smith, to be completely honest. Let's say it's Drew Brees. There's been a couple of quarterbacks who have won on their second contracts. Drew Brees, Ben Roethlisberger, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, and I might be missing one in a lot. Since we've all been watching football, we're all around the same age. So you have to absolutely bank on Sam Darnold being that guy, an elite quarterback. All those guys are elite quarterbacks. And Peyton Manning. Sorry, he's another one, 2015 or whatever, 2014. So all those guys, regardless, are elite quarterbacks. Can you bank on Darnold being elite right now? I cannot. Now, is there a chance that he turns it around? People bring up Tannehill. Yes, Tannehill also threw like 12 passes in the playoff games, and they relied heavily on the run game. So he turned it around, but you have to be 100% sure that he could turn it around right now to skip on Lawrence, who is, one, coming on a rookie contract, two, is a better prospect than Sam. And considering Sam's contract and obviously he's damaged goods. Like I said, he has regressed. It's undoubtable on film. So do I think there's a chance that Darnold turns it around? Yes. Am I banking on that and skipping on a quarterback as good as Lawrence? I can't. And with that, people will say, oh, well, just trade down, draft around Sam, see if he's the option. If you have faith in Joe Douglas, regardless of where Sam ends up in a couple of years, you don't want to end up in that Kirk Cousins purgatory, type of range where you're finishing 8-8, 9-7. If you build around Sam, you invest the draft picks correctly, you invest the money correctly the way that you think Joe Douglas should, and it works out. You have a better team. Now you have to trade up to get a quarterback. Now you're wasting even more assets. Where as of right now, if you finish with the number 1 overall pick, that's a spot you're not going to be in for hopefully a couple of years if you do trust Joe Douglas. It's something you're forced to have to pull the trigger with. So I'm not saying there's not a chance that Darnold could be the guy moving forward for another team or even the Jets if they don't finish with the first overall pick. I'm not saying it's not, coaching has helped him. He's been in the worst situation, all of that stuff. But I'm just looking at him singularly on a play-to-play basis. There are plays that he can make that he sees that he is not pulling the trigger, whatever it may be. There's pre-snap reads he's not seeing. There's a lot of stuff that's not just Gase. It's not just so black and white. He is part of the problem right now, and it's evident on film.
Matt, what do you think about Darnold's future?
It's going to be a big 12 weeks. I think that if the Jets end up with the number 1 pick, that they will more than likely they will take Trevor Lawrence. I don't see Joe Douglas trading out of that spot. If you're in a position where you are in the first pick, you're taking Trevor Lawrence. Now, if the Jets somehow squeak into a couple of wins here and they're picking 4th, then there might be a world where they are bringing Sam Darnold back and trying to sell a coach on being the guy to fix Sam Darnold. There are some traits that I still like about Sam Darnold. I know Joe said it perfectly. He doesn't look like the same player as a couple of years ago. I personally, as of this second, cannot completely give up on him. It depends on what the rest of the season looks like. And a part of me really does want to see him with a real coach and a better supporting cast. It's just a really difficult call because there's so many factors that go into this between coaching, his regression, the players around him. I don't think there's a real clear-cut definitive answer that you can have whose fault it was or is he still going to be able to play in this league. I do think that there is a lot of talent there. He will be the first to tell you he's not consistent enough yet, but it's really, really difficult for me to give up on Sam Darnold at this second. We'll see what happens the rest of the year.
Yeah, and sorry, just to add on to that, Ryan, the question is really right now is if they finish with the number 1 overall pick, and I think the answer at that point is definitive because that means that Darnold is not playing well. Like regardless of what's around him, Jeff Smith was open last game. The Colts game, you have a Yankee concept versus cover 3, which is a perfect call for cover 3. I'm not going to get to what a Yankee concept is. You have Hogan running across the middle. Darnold completely misses him and throws it over his head because his footwork is bad. So there's plays that he's not making. But like Matt said, with better coaching, with a better team around him, could he succeed? Yes, but with the number 1 overall pick, I think it's definitive. But now if you finish at 3-4, trading up to 1 is going to be a haul because of Lawrence.
Mm-hmm.
Do you take Lance? Do you like Fields more than Darnold? How much does it depends on the coach coming in? How much does he like Darnold? Because if he doesn't like Darnold and he likes Lance, you're taking Lance. So it depends on what Darnold finishes out, and that's the benefit of having these last 12 games. But if they finish number 1 overall, Darnold is clearly on the trajectory he's on now. And let's say out of the 4 games he's played, I know one of them was injured, but the Broncos game was below average, if not bad. There's plenty of plays on film he completely missed. The Colts game was terrible. The Bills game was terrible. The Niners game, he made some easy reads and some plays, and the problem is, like, he'll make those 5 plays a game that are super flashy that ESPN will put up, but then what about the 30 other times he dropped back or he missed the reads? So he'll make the flashy play, the 49-yard touchdown run, the scramble throw to Herndon in the end zone, or Crowder last year, or Barrios in the Colts game, but there's just way too much inconsistency, and he needs to show in the last 12 games that the floor of his play is average. Like, you need average play to be your floor. You can't keep having the really, really low floors and the really, really high highs that Darnold has, because that kind of means you're like, Jay Cutler. So,
yeah, look, I think I'm right there with you guys. If the Jets get the first pick, Sam played poorly enough where you can make that definitive decision. You take the generational talent that is Trevor Lawrence. As much as you want to possibly think about getting a haul, you get 2-3 first-round picks potentially if he's traded out of that spot. But there's no part of me that can look at getting number 1 and think that Sam's the guy. Like, I want to believe Sam's the guy. I was in the Jet Nation forums the other day, and I'm posting the old X-Files UFO that says I want to believe, and just like it feels like there's 2 camps, right? There's the camp of, hey, Sam Darnold's not getting coached right. He doesn't have the talent around him. Let's trade out of the pick. And then there's the, like, no, Sam's trash. I feel like that, like, Jet fans are totally split. There's not really, like, middle ground that I've kind of seen here. And for me, Sam's future is very much in the hands of whoever our next head coach is. If the head coach decides, hey, I really like Sam, I believe in him, then fine. I'm okay with trading out of that number 1 spot. If, the head coach comes in and they're like, nah, Trevor Lawrence is my guy. Or, Trey Lance is my guy. Someone I really like. I'm a big fan of him. But I think it's going to depend on who that head coach is. And then you're going to have to build this team the right way, because drafting Sam Darnold without having a left tackle, without having a pass rusher, without having wide receivers, without having all these different pieces around him was ultimately a mistake. And it was a failure by McCagnon. And I feel bad for Sam because, while some of this is on him and his regression, I think the Jets did not do him any favors. And for me, I would love to see Sam go to a team like the Saints. The Saints are easily my favorite NFC team. I think him with Sean Payton could revitalize that career. I think he's going to have some phenomenal weapons over there, or if he goes to the Steelers or the Colts. And I guess this is, kind of where we could bring this in. In the event that the Jets do move on from Sam, what do you think they could get in a trade? What is Sam's trade value? Is it something that we wind up going for prior to the draft, just after we draft our quarterback at number 1 overall in Trevor Lawrence? Or is it something that maybe you wait and you almost do something kind of like what we did with Teddy Bridgewater, where you roll into the preseason, you let him get into some favorable situations, you try to fluff up his characteristics, and then maybe you get a slightly higher draft pick for him at that point than you would have had, coming off the injury with the Teddy, for instance. Joe, what do you think Sam's trade value is?
I think it's around like a 2nd or 3rd round pick. It really depends on how he finishes the rest of the season. But I think Teddy Bridgewater, more of him coming into the Jets in the preseason, was more about health and if he could still do it. Where what is Sam really going to prove in the preseason against bland defenses and things like that? So it's not really going to increase his trade value too much. So I think if you were to draft a top 3 guy, whether it be Lance, Fields, hopefully Lawrence if it is one of those guys, you trade Darnold, you get rid of him, you focus completely on that young quarterback and not on Darnold. So I would say a 2nd or 3rd round pick, and I'm gonna. I don't have the ability to share. If you let me share, I just want to pull up like one play, let me see
one, if I can.
Listen. No, that's fine. If not, and this is really simple. Like, I go over things in my show that are a lot more complex than this, based on leverages, route concepts. If he can, what he should read, what he should not be reading, pre-snap, post-snap, all this stuff. But the play against the Colts, where he's scrambling out to the right side and Herndon is streaking down the sideline, are plays that like really, really concern me. Where you have Herndon with 10 yards of separation, and he doesn't throw the ball for whatever reason that may be. I don't know why it is. Again, we could argue Gase versus weapons, which is a product of what Darnold is for sure. But you cannot argue at this point that he is not damaged. If you think he is what he was day one, I think you're sadly mistaken, because we saw him play, and make these plays in the Texans game, the Packers game, the Broncos game, the Colts game. I think was that his first year or second year? I think it was his first year, the Colts game. He was making these plays where now he's just so gun shy, and he just hearing ghosts, or not hearing ghosts, seeing ghosts, which is a real thing, which I think is overhyped. But his uneasiness and how unsettled he is in the pocket is greatly concerning. So can you fix that? I'm not too sure, because I haven't seen a lot of quarterbacks completely fix their issues in relation to that stuff. So I would like to see him finish out the season, see what he can do. But if they finish that number one overall pick, like I said, I think it's undoubted.
All right. I think I have given you the ability to screen share. I didn't realize that was off. So if you could show us what you're talking about, I think
honestly, Matt, like I mean, Ryan, there's not a lot to break down here. Like, this is super simple stuff. Like, this is the only picture you need on the screen is Darnold looking out to the right side, Herndon completely wide open with nobody in the area. This is a general accuracy throw. You don't have to put this pinpoint accuracy on the run. You got to float it over the top, and you have a touchdown. And Darnold he won't throw the ball. This happened again versus or happened before versus the Bills, where he's just gun shy right now. And these are things that I don't know if you could completely fix versus the Broncos the last game. Like I said, missing Cager over the middle when he's looking right at Cager. Like, those are things that he just. I'll pull up that play really quickly too, just so you can. I've been referencing that quite a bit. I don't want to do like a full film breakdown in your show, but
cool.
Obviously you have the play action. He looks in the middle of the field, and I have the end zone view of the drop back as well. Cager's open. This is as open as it gets in the NFL, and for whatever reason, he doesn't pull the trigger on this play. And again, he has plenty of time to throw this. It's not a anticipation throw because the window's open for a short time. It's open for quite a bit. Darnold doesn't release the ball. He takes a sack. So on the broadcast angle, people might be saying, oh, well, it's the offensive line. It's terrible. Nobody's getting open. When you watch the coach's film, you start to break down the film. You see Darnold's eyes over the middle and Cager completely wide open. If you think the linebacker's there and that's covered, that's not. He can float over that linebacker very, very easily. So those are two plays, and I had, like I said, a ton of them. So it is concerning where he's at right now. Can he turn around? Maybe. Am I banking on that with a top pick and a quarterback that the coach likes who's coming in? I just can't say that now. It sucks because I thought Darnold could be a top 5 guy. I really did. But the Jets and the coaching has ruined him. It's part of him. It's part of them. But it's undoubtedly on him as well right now.
Yeah, for me, I think Sam's trade value is probably sitting somewhere between a second and a third. Maybe you wind up working, a conditional pick where, I don't know, you want to surround your young quarterback that we take this offseason, if that's the move, with as much talent as possible. So maybe you just take the 3rd round pick and you just say, hey, we're going to use it on a running back, or we're going to use it on, whatever else, and forget about trying to potentially optimize the value with a conditional pick, where you say, okay, if he plays X amount of games, now that goes into a 2022 second round pick or something of that nature. I think you're going to need teams to sort of bid on him. I think we're at an interesting point right now in the league where Big Ben and Phillip Rivers and Drew Brees, even, Nick Foles in Chicago, I think there's a few options for teams that may want to take on Sam Darnold. The Saints, I think the Saints and the Steelers are the two that sort of stick out to me because they seem like the most win now teams. And having a 4th year option or 4th year deal with Sam Darnold has got to be enticing, I would think, before they pull the trigger on, trading up for a quarterback all the way. Like those teams that are kind of sitting in playoff contention right now, I guess. Matt, what do you think that Sam's trade value is at this point?
I think if he plays poorly enough to get the 1st overall pick, it's probably a 3rd round pick. I think best case scenario is a 2nd. I really don't see a way that you can get a 1st round pick, as much as that might be enticing to have another 1st round pick. I think more than likely it's a 2nd or a 3rd, which is what most people have been saying. But if you're picking Trevor Lawrence 1st overall, I think a 3rd round pick is where I'm at.
Yeah, and I think I could God, that would be so hard to swallow. Because like Joe, I was so on board with Sam Darnold. I really thought if he played 16 games, he'd break our passing touchdown record. He'd break our yardage records. I thought for sure that was going to happen. And based on what I'm seeing week in and week out from the team and from Sam, it just doesn't feel like we're ever going to get there. And I would be pretty sour if we traded out a 1 for like some generational quarterback that we could have had. And that, I would have never thought watching that draft in 2018 that Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson would be easily the 2 best quarterbacks from that class. I mean, Josh Allen, I guess there were people that did like Josh Allen. I thought for sure, especially after watching the playoff game last year, I was like, oh, he makes terrible decisions. Sam's the better quarterback. We're all good. And then, God, I'm just eating so much crow. And I know there's Bills fans in the chat that are always sitting in here and they're just like, we told you so. He's way better. Well, we're going to take Dayball from you guys. You guys are going to kick rocks. We'll have our own version of Sam. We'll get the golden-maned lion, the king of New York, coming over to the Jets next year. We'll see. Who do we got in here? Thanks for the super chat, New York Bully. He says, I think Eric Bieniemy, Greg Williams tandem in New York could work. I'm not really high on any situation where we keep Greg Williams, I think.
No.
I liked him when we brought him in initially. I liked him last year. I thought he'd have some success this year, and I think with Mosley opting out, I think that hurt us from a linebacking perspective. I would like to have a totally new regime next year. If we're hitting the reset button, just wipe everyone out. Let's get everyone in here. I would love to see Douglas make the head coaching decision and just like the Johnsons sort of step out of the way. Like, let's have an alignment of people going in the same direction, not having this power struggle of like, oh, well, he didn't pick the right guys and, well, he's a bad coach. And then you wind up with this whole BS there. What do you guys think? Eric Bieniemy and Greg Williams tandem. Matt?
No, Greg Williams is not going to be on the team next year. That's just, no, I can't do it. Sorry.
Yeah,
Joe, what about you?
There's no. His defense is already terrible. He's losing the players, like their personal fouls. There's a reason he flames out after a year and a half. He's not going to be the coach here. And if he is, there's a massive problem, and that's why drafting guys like Darnold, who, Ryan, you're right. I'm sure we were all super high on him. A lot of Jets fans were, especially after the first year and what he showed, but the Jets ruined him. Like, that, it's situational is very important. Like, if Lamar Jackson was on the Jets, if Josh Allen was on the Jets, Josh Allen is definitely a bust by now. Like, I really do think that if he doesn't have Brian Daboll, and obviously he stepped up, and Bills fans will defend that. And I think he has, and I think that's correct. But it's a lot of what's around him, with McDermott as a really good leader, with Daboll, with the talent they've put around him as well. But no, you can't bring in Greg Williams, and like I said, Bieniemy is on my list. He's not the clear fire number one guy, though, just because he's the offensive coordinator under a offensive head coach. It does concern me a little bit, regardless of how many plays he's called. I don't know exactly what his influence is in meeting rooms, game planning. If Andy Reid's giving him a bunch of plays to call, but doesn't let him, go out of that realm, whatever there's a lot of things I have to look into in terms of Bieniemy and if he's actually should be the guy. But no to Greg Williams, that'd be absolutely atrocious. And that's why ownership is as bad as it is. So can the Jets win with their ownership and their current structure? I don't know. The GM should manage the head coach. That's how it should be. You don't let owners make big football decisions who make baby wipes and don't have no idea they're talking about. It should not happen.
You're talking about the baby powder that I use is not translating to on-field success. Is that what you're trying to tell me, Joe? Baby powder and football don't mesh together? I don't know.
No, they're not very similar.
I can understand that, I guess. Ryan Schwinger, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, Bill O'Brien, anyone? LOL. The Jets probably already offered him for a 2021 as long as he can keep Gase. Does that keep Gase on staff? Hold on, I gotta zoom out of this. Keep Gase on for OC for Sam. Oh, Jesus Christ. I want no part of Bill O'Brien. That said, Bill O'Brien did have, 4 of 7 years winning record, multiple playoff appearances. But, man, maybe if he doesn't have GM control, like full roster control, him trading DeAndre Hopkins is nothing short of, outrageous. Joe, what do you think about Bob?
No. Is there really more to say about that? Like a guy who like infiltrated his way into a team into the GM role type deal, like Adam Gase tried to do in Miami, like he tried to do with the Jets, got McCagnon fired. Again, you're talking about, Bill O'Brien, Adam Gase, Jim Harbaugh, all these type of guys who like try to penetrate the front office type roles, who clearly alienate players, things like that. Absolutely not. No, not happening. You'll see another Jets. They'll draft another great player. Mekhi Becton in 2 years will be a Hall of Fame on a Hall of Fame trajectory, and we'll trade him because Bill O'Brien feels that we can get by with an average offensive line. Like, then absolutely not.
I'd be so upset. Matt, what do you think? What do you think about Bob?
I think you brought up all those wins and stuff like that. I actually think he's hamstrung Deshaun Watson and that team. I think their ceiling could be so much higher if they had an average head coach. I think, without question, Bill O'Brien's a bottom 5 coach in this league to me, and I think they would have been a lot better off moving on way earlier than what they did.
Yeah, I would hope we're not in the Bill O'Brien running. I'm Lassiter says, Sam is not the problem. Injuries. Adam Gase not knowing how to use him. Bell, Anderson, Herndon, same draft, doing well with better coaches and weapons. Look, I am disappointed in how this offseason went and how this start of this season went. I think Anderson showing what he's shown in Carolina, and us bringing in Perriman, I think was probably the biggest black eye on Joe Douglas right now. I said last year I thought that Robbie Anderson should have gotten 4 years, $12 million a year, which is $1 million a year more than Tyrell Williams got, and I thought he was a better player than Tyrell Williams when Williams got that deal with Oakland. Now, Robbie Anderson would stay healthy. Would Sam be able to hit him? I think that's a legitimate question. It doesn't seem like Sam's deep ball is very strong right now. We don't have Bell. Look, I'm not a fan of Adam Gase. I wasn't a fan of Adam Gase when we hired him. I think there's certainly a lot of blame to go on him and not developing Sam. I think Sam could have developed a lot better had he landed with the Bills, had he landed with the Ravens, had he landed with the Browns. I think he had a lot of better potential landing spots than the Jets.
All of them are better.
Yeah, I don't know if there's really... Is there a situation where we keep Sam? Like, what do you guys think in that respect? Do you think there's... How does Sam have to play in order for us to believe he could be the franchise quarterback moving forward? Is it us just not getting the first pick? Is that all it takes? Or, is there something deeper than that? Joe, I'll throw it to you first.
There's multiple factors. It depends on what the head coach wants. If the head coach trusts Darnold and wants to trade away that draft capital, obviously, if not being one, if they don't take Lawrence at 1, it's going to be indefensible for me. It really will be. But if they don't like Lance, if they don't like Fields and they want to trade that pick down and or get Penei Sewell or whoever they want, Jamar Chase at the top of the draft and build around Darnold, I get it. So one, he has to play well. He hasn't played well this season. Even in the game that he played well against the 49ers, he was okay at best. Like, he still missed some things just because he had a flash. He played at Barrios and garbage time doesn't mean he played that great. Like, he played again okay. So he has to play well. The head coach has to like him. Depends on where they fall in the draft. If they win a couple of games, so there's multiple factors into that equation. So,
Matt, what do you think? What's the situation? What keeps Darnold in New York?
Definitely if they win a couple of games this year, and it depends on who they bring in. Like, I still think there are guys in this league who still like Sam Darnold. I think he is an intriguing guy. Obviously, his play in the first 4 games, people have soured on him, and I understand why. I think if he turns it around and has a good second half of the year, and if they stumble in, let's say they go 3-13 and are picking third, then maybe someone comes in and says, "Yeah, I'll take Jamar Chase at the top of the draft, and we can get after it with Sam." To me, the biggest thing is I don't think they're going to pass up on Lawrence. But if the question was then Trey Lance versus Sam Darnold or Justin Fields versus Sam Darnold, I think there are NFL coaches who would prefer to roll with Sam Darnold and build around him.
Yeah, for me, I think you guys hit the nail on the head. I think if we wind up not getting the first pick, I understand not trading up at that point because it's gonna cost you so much to get up to number 1. Then you get down to the quarterbacks. I think it does depend on the head coach. I think that will have the ultimate final say. Now, would Douglas hire a head coach based on any set criteria? Like, do you think Douglas has made up his mind, hey, Darnold's not the guy. We're going for a quarterback. Like, do you think, are we going to hire a head coach based on their quarterback preference, or are we going to hire a head coach based on, God, I don't know. It's a tough question to kind of think of, I guess. I don't even know if I'm necessarily going into an area where you can pick one or the other. Like, are we looking for someone to coach Sam, or are we looking for, someone to get the next quarterback?
I think that's a question we can't really answer, to be completely honest. We don't really know what Joe Douglas is thinking, and I don't think it's so black and white. We're okay if this guy doesn't want Darnold, we can't hire this head coach. So there's so many factors into what happens in a front office that we really have no idea about. And doing those shows with Marcus Coleman, like, he gives me insight to a lot of those things. Where, like, just like the Robbie Anderson situation, it's and I'm not here to do crap on anybody, but people act like, okay, Robbie Anderson got $10 million a year from the Panthers. If the Jets offered him 11 or 12, he would have came back to the Jets. What if the Jets did offer him 11 or 12 and he said, no, I don't want to play for Adam Gase. I don't like him. I want to play with my ex-college coach and Matt Rule. So, like, there's so many situations you don't know about. Oh, well, you should have signed Conklin. You should have signed Glasgow. Just give him $1 million more than what he wanted from other teams. There's people who won't even answer the phone to the Jets at this point. So I don't like speaking in, like, absolutes like that. Like, he could have signed this guy. He should have signed that guy, because I don't know what he tried to do or not. At the same time, I'll still criticize him for things like not trying to sign a receiver, things like that, or, not drafting that wide receiver in general. But with the Robbie Anderson thing, would I like to have him back? Yes. Was he ineffective for the Jets at times because the Jets had the worst offensive line and he's a deep threat, which obviously you need time to throw to a deep threat? Yes. So I think he would have succeeded with the better offensive line that the Jets have this year. Darnold also doesn't have good deep accuracy, but in terms of, like, oh, well, is this the one factor for a head coach or not? I think it's so much more involved than that it's a question that really nobody can answer, whether that be myself or, Daniel Jeremiah, who's much more plugged in. I don't think it's that simple.
Matt, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's well, with Robbie specifically, you mean, or?
Sure, it could be Robbie. It could be, do you think Douglas is going to be looking for someone to, fix Sam, or is he going to,
I don't know. It's tough to get in his head. I don't know. I don't know what he's thinking. There's a lot of different ways that he can go, and kind of like what Joe was saying. It's not so much black and white. It is really a lot of gray area here. There's a lot of different options he can go. Maybe Joe Douglas does really believe in Sam Darnold. Like, maybe he took this job because of Sam Darnold. We don't know. So it's going to be a lot of wait and see. It's going to be a lot of, let's see how the rest of the season goes and how he plays out. Maybe there are a couple big games for him in the second half of this year. I don't know. The NFL is hard to predict on a week-to-week basis. Like, teams don't show, and, teams beat teams they're not supposed to. So maybe the Jets stumble into 3 or 4 wins this year. Do they look like a 4-win team right now? No, but we don't know what week 10 is going to look like. It's hard to predict that far in advance right now. And I think, anyone who is kind of just doing what their opinion is. I don't know. I don't think we have a definitive answer of what the plan is yet.
Yeah, no, I literally legitimately have no idea where this could go. I think it's going to be a fascinating story for the entirety of the season, and then, even moving into the draft, because then I'm sure that we might be saying this entire time, oh, Odell Beckham Jr. is not getting traded. Jamal Adams is going to be a lifetime Jet. Sam Darnold is going to be our quarterback moving forward, and then we're just going to try and drive up the price of that first-round pick just to see, what could be. And then we might be pulling the same thing that the Cardinals pulled 2 years ago with, Kyler Murray and Josh Rosen. Now, they got a second-round pick for Josh Rosen, but that's also a guy that had multiple rookie years left on his contract. I don't believe, even though I think Sam Darnold's a better quarterback than Josh Rosen at this point, and I think there's a higher upside with him, because of the structure of that contract, the Jets may not be able to get a second-round pick for their young signal caller. Guys, if you haven't seen, up above my head, we have a sponsor for the NFL season, mybookie.ag, promo code JT. If you want to win some money in a season that seems lost because there's nothing else to do on a Sunday, head over to mybookie.ag. They're going to match your first deposit up to $1,000. Win some money. Promo code JT. Make sure you head over there. Try to win some money. Gamble with me, and let's see what's going on. Ryan, you got another super chat in there. He says, how about this for a head coach candidate? Former Jets, now Seattle offensive coordinator, Schottenheimer. Russ is playing amazing, and Schotty had Sanchez looking like a solid quarterback. What do you think of Brian Schottenheimer?
Awesome.
No, it's like saying Adam Gase had something to do with Darnold's scramble, to the left with the Colts game and Braxton Berrios getting open and or Niners game, whatever game that was. I think it was a Colts game, but having a quarterback who improvises is not a good indictment or indictment, whatever, on the offensive play caller. So Russell Wilson is an elite quarterback. No, absolutely not. I'm kind of depressed with all the head coaching candidates' names who have come up from the chat. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little bit disappointed in you guys.
We're whiffing a little bit here. I would have liked to have seen some obscure names, but I think everyone we fall back into our comfort zones and we know Schottenheimer. We're like, oh yeah, let's bring him back. He was our OC for however many years that was. I like Seattle. I think they're a really good team. It's almost like the argument for Gase with Gase being with Peyton Manning. It's like who's leading the car? Is it who leads the chicken or the egg? I guess, right? What came first? It's Peyton Manning. Is he running the offense? Is Russell Wilson running the offense because of his,
I'm in the firm
style?
camp. I'm in the firm camp that the egg came first. By the way, we can get into
the
that.
Egg. Chicken or the egg? Man, that is a dark rabbit hole that you could really go down. Matt, what do you think about Schottenheimer?
No, he wasn't good when he was here with the Jets. Why don't you want to bring him back? Like, because he's with the second best quarterback in the league? Like, no, that doesn't make any sense at all. Sorry.
Yeah. Let's bring Rex Ryan back while we're at it.
That's what I've heard Rex Ryan's name so many times in this damn coaching conversation.
Yeah.
Look, I love Rex. I loved what he did for us when he was with us. I'm fine with keeping that a fond memory and not bringing him back. Elijah, thank you for the super chat. He says 325 people watching, 68 likes. Let's support these guys. Guys, hit that like button. If you hit that like button, it means more people tune in next time. We'll get to get some more opinions, get some more thoughts. I love getting the opinions of people in the chat and just people across the board. This is what this show's about, hearing the different opinions, even if we don't agree. I've had multiple conversations with Matt and Joe where I'm like, no, you guys are totally wrong. But, sometimes you got to agree and you just got to kind of see what's, we see how bad this team is. And it's just easy to just put my head down and cry. I'm trying to look for a reason. Now, if I'm looking at this week, and I'm looking at this Cardinals game, and Joe Flacco's our starting quarterback, if that is the decision that we ultimately wind up going with, it's going to be so hard to watch. Like, I don't know what I'm looking for at this point. I'm just going to hope that there's some rookies that are out there.
Yeah.
Like, I'm hoping Mims is playing. I just want to see some talent out of our young guys.
Yeah, it's the young guys. And after I finish, I gotta go after this statement. But yeah, it's the young guys. It's the Quinnen Williams. It's the Bectons. It's even the Fants. Can he be a long-term option? It's the Cam Clarks. It's those guys that I'm watching. Do I, will I watch the game and be pissed when Beer Desir gets mossed by Jerry Jeudy? Sure, but does Desir matter? Does McDougald matter? Does McClendon? I love him, but does he matter for the future? No. I don't really care about those guys. This year is all about evaluating those 20 to 25 young guys, whether it be depth pieces like Basham or, potential studs like Quinnen Williams or Becton. So it's all about that for me, looking towards the future this year. It's not about wins and losses really. Obviously I would like to win, but that's been gone a long time ago. The Jets suck. They're the worst team in the NFL right now. It's pretty clear. So young guys, who's going to be here in 2, 3, 4 years when the Jets are hopefully making playoff runs.
Joe, any last words for the panel before we let you go? Plug your show, plug your Jets X Factor.
Well, I'm sure I'll see you guys in like a month or so. I seem like to come on the show like once a month. So I'll talk to you then. But yeah, the film, I did really generic stuff tonight. But if you want to go and actually watch the games and learn about the players and learn about the film and concepts and coverages and me talking about spot dropping versus man matching principles or zone matching principles, those things, that's where you can find it. Jets X Factor, Blew It Splits, Joe RB31 on Twitter. That's pretty much it. But that's what I'm about, is the film stuff. So
awesome, Joe. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and we will have you on in the future.
Yep. Have a good one, guys.
See you, Joe.
All right, so we are back to just Matt and I and the chat. I have my little YouTube counter thingy up here, and for some reason it's always saying 0 right now. I must have to.
We're just talking.
That's just sort of
right now.
Talking Jets to just you and me. No one else. There's no one else here.
I
gotta take it off because it's disappointing when I look up we got 0 people in the chat. Wah, 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 wah.
Yeah,
oh God. I don't know. What do you think? I think if Flacco's playing, who are you trying to at least key in on? Is there any evaluations that we could be made? Are you going to be excited at all?
Oh, it's gonna be super depressing watching Joe Flacco throw wheel routes to Frank Gore, and then like, God, every rep to Frank Gore and Chris Hogan just slowly takes days off my life. Like every rep they get over guys like, I don't know, if Mims comes back, he's got to have like 10 targets a game. You got to just get the ball in his direction as much as possible. I really hope he plays this week. I don't know if he is going to be healthy enough, but like, cross your fingers, cross everything you got, that maybe Le'Veon Bell is going to be good to go, and maybe that Mims is going to be good to go, and that will give you at least something on offense. Defensively, there's really not a whole lot to like defensively. I'm really disappointed in this unit because they should be better than what they are. I figured they were going to regress a little bit from what they were last year, but I didn't think it was going to be this bad.
Yeah, this has absolutely been a disappointment from the defensive side of the ball. We sort of thought, would we finish like 8th, I think, last year in terms of overall defense. We were kind of thinking, oh, top 15. I think we're actually sitting at 18th right now, shockingly. I don't know how that's actually a thing. Fun fact, Jets are significantly higher on the defensive grading spectrum than the Jamal Adams-led Seahawks.
Yeah, they're terrible. I just did a video today talking about the final remaining teams the Jets are playing in their defenses. Seattle's the worst one, like by a long shot. It's not good.
Wow, yeah, I did not see that one coming, and it makes me feel a little bit better. Like, did you see the picture of Jamal Adams with the blunt between his legs?
Yeah, then he deleted it and then uploaded it. Moron. I don't.
What an idiot.
I don't miss his off the field gimmick at all.
No, yeah, it was distracting for the team. I want to see guys that are more like, I don't mind the rah-rah guys, but it's the rah-rah. It felt like he was trying to be a showman, like he was trying to like, hey, look at the leader I am, as opposed to like actually leading the team. I thought it was funny. I was like, you know what? Honestly, I don't mind if players smoke pot, and I think, him being in Washington where it's recreationally legal anyway, not the worst thing, but I guess if you're trying to be I don't want to say a leader, but like a role model for kids and everything, it's like, oh, that's a little weird to have that there.
It's definitely questionable. I don't know. Is it the worst thing in the world? No, obviously not. But it was definitely a funny internet moment. I'll take that.
Now, do you think there's going to be do you think he'll wind up getting drug tested? Because didn't he sat out last week? Is that what it was, with a bruise, something or other?
He did. Well, so, are they still testing? I don't think they're testing for marijuana anymore, right?
They're not. Oh, yeah, I guess they're not. I guess that's the new CBA, right? So it's just like, oh, yeah, that's tobacco. And they'll just be like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know if it's like a probable cause thing or like a...
I like to roll my own cigarettes. What of it?
It's hey, it is what it is. Whatever. All right, let's see if we can get some phone calls in here. We'll get some of your guys' opinions on stuff. Where's my little phone button? I got a little phone button here. Phone number. Well, bam! Oh, phone number's not where I wanted it to be, and it's also not where I want it to be. All right, pause for 1 second. I will get that there. I'm like rolling this thing up all the way to the top of. Yeah, it's just. Oh, there we go. Okay. There is the phone number. Oh, Juan Pablo Reynoso Moraga. That's a mouthful. Pederson in last year of contract. Joe connection. And Lance at QB. I like Trey Lance a lot. I was looking at some of his highlights. I think if we can't get Trevor Lawrence and we have to go with another quarterback, I think he's my early favorite. Like, I like Justin Fields, but I feel like Justin Fields is kind of playing with like a lot of wide open guys. Lance feels like the quarterback of the future for the NFL. I don't know if you've done much digging there.
No, I definitely agree with you. I think Lance is the clear-cut number 2 quarterback in this class, in my eyes. I think he is good. And honestly, like, I'm still, I would say, a Darnold guy. In a perfect world, I don't want to take a quarterback. I want him to prove that he can play. But that by no means doesn't mean that I don't think that Lawrence is a good prospect or Lance. I like both those guys a lot. Fields I'm a little bit lower on, but I think he's definitely going to go in the first round, and I think there's a chance that he could be good in this league. But I like the other two a little bit better than Fields.
Yeah. Good question, Juan. Fantastic. CLP. I think didn't I look that up last time? I think it's Chilean peso, if I'm not mistaken.
Love that.
Very cool. All right. So phone lines are open. I'm going to open up to Google Voice right now. Remember, keep your questions short because Matt is not going to hear you say it. So I have to reiterate to him, and I don't want to have to reiterate a paragraph of stuff. So remember, keep your questions brief here. If you don't get through on the phone lines, please keep trying to call. I don't have call waiting or anything like that, so it's kind of a first come, first serve phone call that pops up, which is odd because I have a zillion things since 9:18. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There we go. Here's a call.
Call from.
Oh, yes.
Hey, what's good, brother? What is on your mind?
What's up, Ryan? How you doing, man?
I'm hanging in there. Just another day in paradise, or hell, depending on which. If you're talking about Jetland or just life in general. I don't know. What's on your mind, brother?
So I actually asked Matt this question on his podcast after a long rant, of course, but I guess I can't wait till tomorrow till it comes out. I want to hear your opinion, too. Who should we trade at the trade deadline? Because the team isn't going anywhere. I think, getting some guys, unfortunately, some guys I thought might be traded, like a Jordan Jenkins maybe, really have no value. They haven't really been doing much. Maybe you can trade Henry Anderson. I don't know, maybe someone I don't know. Man, I don't even care. I just want to see some young guys play this year if possible, for conditional seventh or some crap like that. I don't even care, man. Just get them out of here, and hopefully we get something back. So let me hear what you have to say, man. Thanks.
Awesome. Good question. Good question. And Matt, this is a question that you got on your podcast that should be coming out tomorrow.
Okay.
He says, who is a player or players that we should look at towards the trade deadline as potential trade bait for the New York Jets? Who could we possibly move on from and get some draft picks?
Le'Veon. I don't know if you're going to get anything of significant value there, but Le'Veon's definitely someone I look at that could be moved. Maybe Marcus May.
Those are the only two I could really try to think of. And that's I'm probably reaching there. I don't think there's anyone else that I think you keep Crowder. I don't think it makes sense to trade him. Bell,
Quinnen?
I think makes a lot. Quinnen, I wouldn't move him. I think he's looking pretty good. He's a Joe Douglas. Oh, nice. I guess he's not a Joe Douglas pick. He's a McCagnon pick.
Guy. I wouldn't move him, but I'm saying he may be if you had to pull another guy, maybe.
Sure. I think with the way the contracts are and the way we've used them right now, I think I would like to see us sign at some point during the season, assuming he continues to play well and earns the contract. I don't know if maybe we want to see him test the market, but I think if we allow him to test the market, I don't think he's going to come back here. With Bell, I think he makes the most sense to trade. I think there's enough hope that if you have a good offensive line, you could potentially see a resurgence of Le'Veon Bell. Everyone's saying Mosley. I don't know if we can trade I guess you can trade Mosley right now, right? I shouldn't say everyone's saying Mosley, but there's Grant is saying Mosley. Grant and Dark Demonic are both saying Mosley. Mosley's an interesting option. I would love to trade Mosley just because we're locked into him for so long.
Who's taking that contract, though?
That's what's tough. I mean, especially in a year where the cap's going to be dropping. Now, next year, his cap hit's not bad. Next year, his cap hit's only $7.5 million. So if you think the season's going to get back on track and the cap rises back up, maybe you could get someone to take a bite on that. But he's going to be out of the league now for 2 years. 2 years of football, aside from 3 quarters of play. I don't know. The Jets really shot themselves in the foot with that contract. I guess even the Bell contract, I still like the move for Bell because I think it was a good way to try and surround your young quarterback with talent. It just sort of backfired. With Bell, I think you might be able to get a 4th-round pick for him. I think if you do it at the trade deadline, I think the team that would be trading for him would be on the hook for $6 million, $7 million.
Okay. Yeah, maybe it's hard to say what his value would really be in a trade. A 4th probably I think that's best case scenario. I think it could even be later than that. But it sucks, but there's no reason to keep Le'Veon Bell. You're going to move on from him after this year. kind of going off the rails, but I
Mhm.
really, really like a running back prospect in this year's draft.
Oh yeah, who you liking?
Travis Etienne from
Oh yeah,
I think
just double dip
I think he could be there in round 2. I
at the
love
top of that.
the first pick in round, or wherever you're picking in round 2. Let's say you have the, I don't know, the 34th pick in the draft.
Mhm.
I think he could be like Alvin Kamara. He's a good receiving back. He's extremely explosive. I love him as a prospect. I really like him a lot.
I had him. I think it was in my first mock draft last year. I thought he was going to declare and come out, so I am all on board with that pick. I think that would be a fantastic move. Especially, could you imagine if you bring in Trevor Lawrence and then you get his running back in ETN?
Right, it'd be like Clemson North.
Oh yeah, I'll take it. I would do that. I would be all about it. I think the Jets are going to need some offensive weapons. And when you look at this, if you decide you're not going, like if the Jets get the first pick and you decide you're not rolling with Sam Darnold, you're taking Trevor Lawrence at 1. Now in free agency, that opens you up to really just going bananas on a whole lot of things. I still like Thuney. I like the idea of adding that guard. But you could start looking at, maybe double dipping at pass rusher and just really like infusing this with a ton of talent on the like defensive side. If you can't get the playmaker, like I think if we don't have Sam, I don't know if Juju's going to be as high up on our list as I would have otherwise thought. Yeah, and then do you go into the draft and just go hardcore offense? You take the quarterback at 1, the receiver at the Seattle pick, the running back in our second round, and then you now have at least 2 third-round picks. And then if you trade Sam, maybe you say that's another third-round pick there. It gives you a lot of ammo to add a guard, to add corners, to get like the Jets are going to be able to add a lot of talent in the next 2 drafts. Etienne's a special player. He would be really cool. I love Alvin Kamara too. So if you're telling me I could get Alvin Kamara 2.0, that would be nice.
Because that's the kind, like to me, I think the earliest we can get into draft. I mean, sure, why not?
Sure.
I'm very against taking a running back in the first round, but to me, if you get a player like that in round 2 or beyond, like that's huge, and that's the kind of running back you want in today's NFL. Someone who could do a little bit of everything, which is what he can do, and someone who's explosive. Like I'm tired of these like slow, methodical Adam Gase offense. Like Frank Gore's perfect for it because he's slow and boring. No offense to Frank Gore, but he's like 100 years old. Etienne would be so much fun. Like just get him in space, get the ball in his hand, and let him go to work. I think he's going to be really good at the next level. I hope he's a Jet.
I just want to see some excitement on this Jets offense.
Right?
That's really where it comes down to. It just show me some razzle dazzle. I want to be the team that puts up 45 points, and who cares if our defense gives up 35 because we're going to outgun you like week in and week out. And hopefully Trevor Lawrence can be that guy if that is the decision, or if it's Sam, whatever. Guys, phone lines are open. If you want to call in and ask us a question, just remember to keep your question short because I have to reiterate the questions to Mr. O'Leary over here. Caller on the line. Who we got?
Call from.
Whatever. Guys, phone lines are open.
To accept. Call from.
Hey, what's good, brother? Phone lines are open. Oh, and he hung up. He had a little bit of reverb going back on. I was hearing like my own voice. I was like, wait, that sounds a lot like me saying the phone lines are open.
Something's going wrong here. Yeah.
I was like, something is amiss. Guys, if you want your shot to win a Just End the Suffering shirt, actually, you know what I should plug, and I haven't done this yet. Matt and I are both on it right now, is Flick Chat. If you go down into the description, there is a link to Question of the Day. I believe that's what I have it under right now. Let me pull it up. It's if you go in the description of this video, under the subscribe to like Jets X Factor and O'Leary and Green Bean, there is a game day chat with a little football next to it for the Flick group. And we have a chat, more of like a forum that we're kind of experimenting with. It kind of gives us a little bit more of an opportunity to have some dialogue and have a conversation beyond just the YouTube video, because YouTube is great to have, the video conferencing here, but also, not so great on the comment side of things. So if you want to check that out, click on the Flick Chat, the game day chat down below in the description there. Let's go back to the phone lines. Let's try to get some callers in here. We got about a half hour left in the show. If you want a shot, let's do this. If you join the Flick Chat, down below. I'll raffle off a shirt at the end of the show. We'll give away a Just End the Suffering shirt.
Nice.
All you have to do is vote in the poll. There's a poll up there right now. It's the Should the Jets Tank for Trevor poll. Should the Jets tank for Trevor? Vote in that, and then you'll get your shot to win a hat, shirt, or mug, or a Just End the Suffering shirt. As of right now, it is like a dead heat tie, 52-48, yes to no. And we got a caller on the line. Let's see what we got.
Call from
Trevor Lawrence.
Oh man, Trevor Lawrence is on the line. How you doing, Trevor? You coming to New York?
You know, I'm doing really well. I just wanted to be honest with you guys. I'm very excited to get drafted. I'm very excited to play pro ball. But my problem is, I'm a junior, and so I don't need to come out in this next draft. And I may decide to wait until I see a team that's got a little bit better of a track record before I take a flyer on the Jets.
Sure, and I think that is a perfectly valid reason. But your last name is not, Peyton Manning or Eli Manning, where you could do that. No other quarterback has really done that. We have 40 million reasons for you to come out of college, Trevor, and to sign with our New York Jets at the number 1 spot. But yeah, that is a terrifying prospect.
That's a hard thing to turn down. 40 million reasons, like you said. But the problem is that I don't need that kind of leverage to be able to say, well, I'm going to play baseball or I'm going to go, to law school. I can just stay in school for another year.
Sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. So would your question wind up being, do you think we could see a situation where Trevor Lawrence stays in school?
I guess my question would be, do you think that the Jets would be running a big, you're taking a big chance if they banked on that, and they might want to think about making sure, look, if we can get a huge haul for the number 1 pick, we can build a great O-line. We can get the great guys with the great ball skills that you guys were talking about. And then the quarterback can be, he can be a second round guy later on or somebody who's a free agent. But building those guys up front, they have a longer, more important career maybe than some of those skill positions. So maybe you build that way and then you wait for that perfect quarterback. That's a long question, I know.
That's all right. I'll try to reiterate it to Matt. Thank you so much for the call in. All right. So he's Trevor Lawrence. He's saying that, he doesn't have to come out. He's going to be a junior. And then he said, there's going to be some interesting situations where the Jets might be offered a haul, and Trevor Lawrence doesn't want to play for the Jets. I know Mike Greenberg on Get Up was saying how he would tell Trevor Lawrence to stay in school and not to get ruined by the New York Jets. And honestly, it's the conversation that we had with Joe Burrow and the Bengals for this season. Like, hey, would he ever come out and say, look, I'm not going to play for the Bengals because I've seen what happens to quarterbacks that go to poor situations and it just ruins their careers. So do you kind of put your foot in the ground and pivot away from the New York Jets? I don't know. Do you see a situation where Trevor Lawrence doesn't come out?
I mean, it's certainly possible. It's happened before. It wouldn't be like, oh, this is the first time ever. Peyton Manning did it in, 97? And, I mean, Eli Manning pretty much, demanded that the Chargers trade him once they drafted him. So, like, it is the Mannings. But I feel like, no. It could certainly happen. Like, he doesn't have to. He's not obligated. If he sees the Jets are there with the first overall pick, and like, who knows? The Johnsons are nuts. What if they're like, we're not going to fire Gase? You're going to want to go into that? I wouldn't. I might opt out. I'll go outside Clemson with him.
Dude, if that's just it, if the Jets opt to keep Gase after the season, I might have to go on a baby punching rampage and just run down the street hitting toddlers. That's how angry I'd wind up getting.
Yeah, we might have to change up our gimmick. I might be Matt O'Leary, Carolina Panthers or Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah. I'll have to be like Saints Talk 24/7 or something. I'll just have to change gears completely. And then I'll be a Saints YouTuber, and then all of a sudden they don't have Drew Brees. I'm just going to be in quarterback purgatory forever. Yeah. This is what happens. Please just get rid of Adam Gase and keep Matt and I talking about the Jets in some meaningful capacity. Guys, phone lines are open. Make sure when you ask your question, keep it short. I love talking to you. but I also have to try and reiterate the question to Matt. We got about 17 minutes. 17 minutes, is that right? Math? No, 27 minutes.
27.
Math is hard.
Not a math podcast.
Math, yeah, exactly. Not here to do that. I see Chris from Florida. He's trying to call in. I have like 2 people that are consistently programmed in here. Chris from Florida is one of them. And Grandpa Mark is the oh, you were just on the line. What just happened? You hung up. Sorry, dude. Should have kept your phone ringing. Ugh. I don't know. Guys, if you want a shot to win a Just End the Suffering shirt, make sure you head down into the description. Click on the game day chat. It's got a little football next to it. And just answer the poll question. Should the Jets tank for Trevor? I'm going to raffle something off at the end of this show. Caller on the line. Who we got?
Call from
Mike.
Mike, what's good, brother? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm trying to hang in there. What's on your mind?
I just wanted to say, I thought Friday morning would have been the perfect time to fire Gase. So now my question is, when do you think Gase gets fired this season?
Ooh, good question. Thank you so much for the call. He says, Friday morning was the perfect opportunity to fire Adam Gase. Now, when do we think Adam Gase will be fired? Matt.
Black Monday, the day after Week 17. I don't think he gets fired midseason. As you said, the perfect time to do it was on this mini bye week, I guess, where you had a couple extra days off. I don't think they're going to do it in between the Miami games and that bye week. At that point, like, what's the point? It's too late in the season. You have like 4 or 5 games left. We're going to be stuck for 16 games of Adam Gase. It's going to suck. We're going to have to get through it together, but hopefully they let Joe Douglas decide who he wants for general manager, because if it's the Johnson family who is picking, I have zero confidence, because they had the last go around just 2 years ago. You had Mike McCarthy, and I'm not the biggest Mike McCarthy guy, but at least you could have sold me on he won a Super Bowl in this league. Okay, sure. I don't think he's a great coach, but okay, fine. Cliff Kingsbury, Matt Rule, Todd Monken, Eric Bieniemy, and then at the bottom of the list is Adam Gase. And that's him. That's the guy I want.
That's our guy.
Stupid. So stupid.
God, that drove me crazy. I'll have to, maybe I'll go back and watch my reaction video, because it just warms my heart. I just remember smacking my forehead and just be like, oh, you had McCarthy in the building. What'd you do? You flubbed it up. Why would you take Adam Gase? And then that press conference. Oh, that initial press conference. They should have just teed him up right there. Be like, we screwed up. Mistake.
I made the mistake. So I was watching that at work, and some of my other buddies were around my computer, and they're like, I'm so sorry. There's no coming back. From that moment, you knew it was over.
Yeah. You want to give someone the benefit of the doubt, but when you're like,
he makes it so hard. You can't give him the benefit of the doubt.
No, yeah, he was terrible in Miami. He comes in, he's crazy eyes, he's sniffing bath salts on the friggin' sideline, or sniffing salts, or whatever the hell you want to call it. I don't know. The guy just makes no sense. Please do not have Adam Gase here next year. That's all I have to say in regards to that.
Do you think he gets another job in the NFL somewhere else?
No, not as a head coach. Maybe as an offense coordinator, but even then, I don't even know that. Maybe a quarterback coach. That's
what I was talking about. Not a head coach, but any kind of. I don't think he gets hired anywhere. I think he's out. McCagden's not anywhere. He's not even a scout anywhere. He's donezo.
Yeah, that could very well be what happens to Gase. I could see him not getting blackballed, but just not finding another job. All right, who we got on the
call
line?
from
Somewhere else? No.
Kenny.
Hey, what's good, brother? How you doing tonight?
Good. How's it going, Ryan?
I'm trying to hang in there. What's on your mind?
I just want to know if Green Bay at the end of the season they offered Aaron Rodgers for Sam Darnold, would you make the trade? I mean, maybe they add something in, but would you make that trade? That's the only question I have.
That's an interesting question. That's a good outside the box kind of question. I was thinking a little bit about this the other day, actually, and I was trying to think of how I could word this into a video, and I wasn't quite sure how to do it, because I don't think it makes a crazy ton of sense, but I would probably consider doing it. Is what happens if after the season Green Bay comes up to you and says, hey, we got our rookie quarterback that we took in the draft. We want to roll with him while he's on the cheap rookie deal. We're going to trade Aaron Rodgers. would you trade Aaron Rodgers for Sam Darnold? Now they have 2 young quarterbacks that they can let duke out. Jets have Aaron Rodgers, but we also don't have anyone kind of around him.
Sam Darnold for Aaron Rodgers straight up?
Straight up. Yeah. 37-year-old Aaron Rodgers?
Yes. Without question. I think he's a top 3
Take
quarterback.
3 years?
Yeah, he's
take
a
3 years
top
of
quarterback
Rodgers?
right now. Yeah, 100% yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting question. I would like to believe that Aaron Rodgers would have a little more say in where he goes, but I guess Brett Favre didn't either. Could you imagine Brett Favre comes to the Jets after Aaron Rodgers gets drafted, and now Aaron Rodgers comes to the Jets after Jordan Love gets drafted? Oof, man, that would be a mistake for the Packers to move on from Aaron Rodgers. I don't care how many years of rookie contract you waste on Love's deal. I think you have to stick with Aaron Rodgers for as long as you possibly can. I think he's just phenomenal.
I have a take. I don't know if it's a hot take, but
Go for it.
I don't trust Love at all. I didn't like him coming
Neither do
out.
I.
I hated that pick for them. I thought they should have went a wide receiver. But I think that's a big mistake. I don't think they're going to be able to transition to him. Supposedly, like, he's missing guys in practice and stuff like that. Like, he hasn't looked good in practice.
Yeah, I thought it was a really bad move. I agree. I think receiver should have been the option there. A few of the Packers fans that I do know were very upset that the Jets took Mims just ahead of them in that second. Oh, I guess that was second round. The first round they would have. What pick did they have in the first round? Was it 26?
No, 30.
30. So they had. I'm trying to think who would have been around there. Ayuk went 31? Is that right?
Yes.
So he would have been available. Justin Jefferson was like 22 or 20. Whenever the Bills pick was, I think that was 22 for them. Yeah, look, I don't think that moving on from Aaron Rodgers is a smart move for Green Bay in any capacity. I think he is still phenomenal. I saw a tweet earlier today, and it was a really good flex by Aaron Rodgers, and he said, they're like, talking about his down years, and he says, like, oh, well, my down years are considered career years for other quarterbacks. And I was like, oh, mic drop.
I mean, he's
like, that is no, that, I mean, dude's incredible. I know Brady's got the hardware, but Aaron Rodgers, in the time that we've been alive watching quarterbacks play, I think it's got to be probably between Rodgers, Brady, Manning, maybe you throw Breeze in there as the top 4 quarterbacks during that time. But, dude, his touchdown interception ratio is unreal.
Yeah, I think so. Here's my answer. Whenever it's is Brady the GOAT?
Mm-hmm.
I think Brady is the best quarterback of all time. I think Rodgers is the most talented quarterback of all time. That's where I would make it differential.
I think that's a fair assessment, because if you had one game with any one of those 4 quarterbacks that we just mentioned, Breeze, Brady, Rodgers, Manning, which one are you taking?
And all of them are in their prime.
All of them are in their prime. One game.
I think you'd have to go with Brady.
Yeah. God, Brady with Belichick. Brady without Belichick looks pretty good too.
Right. I think you'd have to go with Brady just because of everything, like every big moment he's been there, done that a million times. To me, I think with Rodgers, coaching's held him back. That's why I wasn't a McCarthy guy. I think he was a big why the Packers didn't get over the hump and win another Super Bowl. But there's a lot of factors that go into Green Bay's lack of championships since 2010. Rodgers is very, very, very good. I don't think he's a wrong answer, but I don't see how you could not pick Tom Brady.
Oh, God, I hate Tom Brady. I'm taking Rodgers. Sorry. I'm sticking to my guns here. I hate Tom Brady. I just can't stand him. He'd go kick rocks. Him and his TB12 and him making out with his son and all that. He's just gross.
He did.
All right. What was it?
He did. He made out with his kid.
He did. It was way long, and he called him back to get some more. All right, caller on the line. Who we got?
Frank from Florida.
Frank from Florida. How you doing, buddy?
Good. How about you, man?
I'm trying to hang in there. What's on your mind?
Hey, quick question. how close do you think the relationship is between Joe Douglas and Adam Gase? Because I just have a feeling, I mean, based on everything that I'm reading, there could be a strong possibility that Gase is not going to get fired, and they're going to go long-term with him. You know, there was something that Douglas said, and this was last month. He said, I especially believe in Coach Gase. I feel like he is the right coach to lead this team. I feel really good about where we are with him and his leadership. Everything I've seen has been outstanding. We share a vision on what we want our team to look like.
Oof. That's a tough question. Oh, thank you so much for that. Okay. So Frank from Florida is about to make me cry a little bit, and he says, based on what he's hearing and the comments that Joe Douglas has made, he thinks there's a real possibility that the Jets hold on to Gase long term beyond this season. And what do we think our relationship is between GM and head coach right now, Douglas and Gase?
I don't think I would be able to continue to create content for this team if Adam Gase is still around next year. I said before the season that I don't think that Joe Douglas is as close with Adam Gase as the public perception is. I still believe that to be the case, but I don't think it's Douglas's call to move on from the coach. I do think it's Christopher Johnson's call. The Jets are a stupid franchise, but I don't think that they are going to allow him to come back and do this a third time. I think he's done at the end of the year.
Yeah, I think regardless of how many weird hiccups there have been, like the injuries last year, you know, the injuries, but the pandemic this year and everything sort of going on with no preseason. I know there's a lot of what ifs and what could have been with Adam Gase, but it's hard for me to see a situation where the Jets go 2-14, 1-15, 0-16, and they decide to bring Adam Gase back. There's just not enough motivation from the team. I don't think players actively want to come here to play. I think that's an issue because you're going to have young guys that are getting drafted. Like, someone was talking to me the other day about Mims. They're like, yeah, when Mims got drafted, there wasn't like much of a smile. It was like, oh, okay, that's where I'm going to play. I'm like, oh, I hope that's not the case. I don't remember what he looked like when he was drafted, but man, I want players to want to play here, and I know they want to play for winning organizations, and that's going to be the big crux. And I think if you have a ton of draft picks and you're bringing in a ton of young guys, it's a changing of the tide. You refresh the culture with a new head coach. That's what I want to see. I don't want to see Adam Gase here. I'd be very upset if we roll into year 3 with Adam Gase. Guys, phone number's on the screen. Make sure you call in, ask a question. We will answer it. If you want your shot to win a Just End the Suffering shirt, click on the description down below. And then go to the game day chat. There's a little football there. Head over that and just answer the poll question. There's a poll question. Should the Jets tank for Trevor? Get yourself entered to win a shirt at the end of the show. Chris from Florida is on the line. Chris, how you doing tonight?
What's going on, my man? 3 quick things before I get to my question. Joe Blue is really lucky I didn't get the calls because I really wanted to bury that guy with his comments. There are a lot of things that I respect the guy and his knowledge and his studying, but when it comes to Sam Darnold, I can give you a 1,000 reason list of why you could keep Sam Darnold even if you have the number 1 pick. 1,000 list reasons. And the second thing is, if Adam Gase is the coach next year, you better believe I'm done watching football until he's gone.
Well, I hope you still continue to watch mine and Matt's videos, even if Adam Gase is the head coach.
I doubt you would be making videos, trust me.
It'll just be me sobbing in a corner. That'll be. Sorry, go on.
My question is this, and this is a legitimate question. Because now the Texans got rid of Bill O'Brien, and we know what kind of franchise the Texans are, how much does this franchise of ours need to throw and need to reel in for the best coach? Like, that's the thing. Like, I understand the whole first-round draft pick and all that, but what is it as a franchise we need to do to reel in the top picks since we are up against other better franchises? Go Jets.
Ooh, wow, Chris, that is a great question. So first he started off a little fired up at Joe Blue, and he was not happy that Joe was critical of our Sammy Sticky Lips Darnold. And then he said he's like I'm done with this team if we keep Adam Gase. But his main question was, what do we think the Jets are going to have to do to entice a head coach to come here? Because that Houston team with Deshaun Watson already in place is going to look really good. Now, right off the bat, I'm going to say, look, yes, you have Deshaun Watson, but you also don't have a first or second round pick. Let me pull up their cap situation. I'm not exactly sure what their cap is looking like. The Jets are more of a blank slate, I believe, than what you'd be looking at with the Texans. So the Texans next year, they are over the cap. So they can roll over $8.5 million from this season, roll it into next year. They're $15 million over the cap. So that would knock them down to $7 million over the cap, which means they're going to have to cut. There's a real possibility J.J. Watt gets cut at the end of the year. It's going to save them $17.5 million. Wow.
Holy crap.
That would be an interesting player. Brandon Cooks, $12 million. I'm sure you could see both those guys. Now, maybe J.J. Watt restructures and figures out a way just to stay there. I don't see him leaving the Texans. That would be an interesting situation. Could you imagine just trying to bring J.J. Watt in on the, I don't want to say on the cheap because you still have to pay him, I'm sure, but it'd be an interesting situation. I think for the Jets to be an attractive landing spot, Sam is either going to have to ball out and we just lose because of the ineptitude of Greg Williams and Adam Gase, or you get that first overall pick, you have like $80 million in cap space and a ton of draft picks. I think the Jets are going to be the top candidate for a good head coach this offseason, I would think, if we wind up with that number 1 overall pick. Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, 100%. The number 1 overall pick is really enticing. Like that's part of the reason why we saw Cliff Kingsbury go to Arizona, I think. It does make a difference. Like picking 4th or picking 1st is huge. But I know I said it earlier, but I'll say it again because some people might be a new audience here. But I really do believe that some people in the NFL are still high on Sam Darnold, and they might want to be that guy who'd be like, oh well, I'm the guy who fixed Sam Darnold. Like egos play a role in this, and to me, I still see flashes of talent. So I'm not ready to completely throw in the towel on Sam Darnold. I think you could sit here. I think there could be a middle ground. Like earlier in this show, you said people are either like, Sam sucks, get rid of him, or it's not his fault at all. I think you could be somewhere in the middle, which I think is where I'm trying to be at least, although I maybe a little bit more towards Sam slightly. But I do think like there are scouts who do believe in Sam Darnold. Like if you even on Twitter, not like random.
No, Todd McShay was saying, if he had the choice, if the Jets had the number 1 pick, he would stick with Sam Darnold. That's what he was saying. Did you see the Jordan Palmer thing too? Jordan Palmer came out and said that he would stick with Sam Darnold over Trevor Lawrence. Now, of course, Sam Darnold is paying Jordan Palmer to be his quarterback's coach, so there might be a little bias there. But that was actually the thread on Jet Nation. It was that particular comment by Jordan Palmer. I put the thing that said, I want to believe, the old X-Files thing, the poster up there. I want to believe in Sam Darnold. I want to believe he's the guy because I would love to trade out of that first overall pick and just get a haul of players. Then you get Jamar Chase, you get your edge rusher, you get your corner, you just load this team up real quick. But man, passing on Trevor Lawrence, if he is the quarterback that a lot of people kind of think he's going to be, especially after the Jets passed on Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes in recent memory, that is just such a kick in the gut.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, because they had the opportunity sitting right there. They just were stubborn with they had to keep Christian Hackenberg to see what he was and then just never put him in a game.
Yeah, no, it's this team's just fucking infuriating. That's what it boils down to. Yeah. All right, guys, phone lines are open. We'll try to get probably one more phone call in there, and then I'll raffle off that hat, shirt, or mug, or just the Just End the Suffering shirt. Make sure you go down into the description. There's the game day chat with a little football next to it. Click on that, and all you have to do is join into there, vote on the poll question, and we'll give away something in the next 5 minutes. So make sure you click on that. But phone lines are open. We'll try to get one more phone call in there, get your question heard, but make sure you also keep your question short, because I have to try and reiterate it to Matt, because he will not be able to hear what you are saying. Yeah, man. It doesn't feel like the Jets are playing a game this week. Like, it feels like as much as last year sucked, because like after week 1 I was so excited, it was a fun game, and we lost in deflating fashion. Sam Darnold gets mono, season's over. We play week 1, it felt like the season was over, like right out of the gate.
Yeah, it stinks. It's not even Halloween. The season's done in 4 weeks. It's so depressing. They need a serious change. They really do.
I just want to play meaningful games into December.
Right?
That's honestly where it comes from. Like, I want to be excited and be like, oh wow, we might be fighting for the division now that the Patriots are not the juggernaut they once were, or maybe we could fight for a wild card, because that hasn't been a thing in 5 years. And like even then, we still lost that, so we haven't had a wild card in 10 years. 10 years, Matt.
10 years without playoffs is almost impossible, because the NFL, there's so much parity in this league, but it's like the Jets, the Browns, and the Buccaneers are like the only team who haven't made the playoffs in the last decade.
It's so rough. It's just, I know the Browns have been called the factory of sadness, but man, it sure feels like MetLife is the factory of sadness right now. Between the Jets and Giants, like the Giants have, I think, the worst record in football over the course of the last 3 or 4 years. I don't think there's any team that has lost more games than the Giants.
Right.
And the Jets can't be too far behind.
No, and to be honest with you, I don't think it's a lock the Jets get the number 1 pick. Like, there's a good chance the Giants could be picking first overall.
Yeah, they're talking about how the Giants have a 37% chance. I think the Jets have a 27% chance, last I saw, if I'm not mistaken. And the reason being for that is the... Actually, I don't even know. It doesn't feel like the Giants should have a higher chance than the Jets. Like, I think they've only scored 2 offensive touchdowns all season, which has got to be close to what the Jets are at. It's not like...
It's very impressive.
I don't think we've always played this game as New York fans. Like, oh, if you take the Jets and you take the Giants and you combine them, they'd be such one good, like, what a great team. You take the Jets secondary when they had Revis. You take the Giants front 7 when they had, like, JPP and all those guys, Yuban Yora. If you take the Jets and Giants this year, I don't know if you could beat the best collegiate team. Like, these teams are awful.
Yeah, I think if you combine both teams, I don't think this is a competitive roster.
What happens if the Giants get that number 1 pick? I feel like the Giants have to get a win. They're just going to luck into a win between the Eagles and the Redskins. Like, I feel like they have a better shot at dumb luck than the Jets have.
You would think so. Their strength of schedule is not what the Jets is either, but again, I said this earlier, but the NFL is weird. Like, I'm not convinced that the Jets can't stumble their way into 3 wins this year. Like, you're telling me that, like, I don't know, like a random team. Like, did we think the Jets were beating Dallas last year? No. Like, you get those random weeks where just teams don't show up. Like, I'm not going to come out and say, like, oh, they are definitely beating New England or they're definitely beating Buffalo or anything crazy like that. I'm just saying, like, there might be a week where a team comes and, like, they don't play well. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the issue with the Giants. You mentioned it with the strength of schedule. The Giants have a very easy strength of schedule. The Jets have a very hard strength of schedule. So that's where the percentage kind of comes in. If they think both teams can go 0-16, if that happens, that's friggin' amazing. But yeah, the Jets are gonna. If the Jets tie with any team for draft pick wise, they're basically getting bumped back because our strength of schedule. The draft pick goes whoever has the weakest strength of schedule and whoever has the worst record. So if you lost the most teams, if the Jets and Giants both lost to the same amount of teams, the Giants rather lost to the worst teams, meaning you are then worse in that order. So you would get the first pick. That would be so fresh. Could you imagine the Jets and Giants both go like 1-15 or 0-16, and then the Giants friggin' get Trevor Lawrence, and now we have to watch this, and we're like, oh, we're just bad. And now we get like, I don't know. Maybe they go for Trey Lance then at that point.
I don't know. I do like Trey Lance, but I really am hoping that Sam Darnold could figure it out in the second half of this year.
Yeah, that's where I sort of fall. I almost hope the Jets don't get the first pick in that respect, because then you can kind of put your eggs all in the Sam Darnold basket, and you try to surround him with talent. Because I feel like if you try to go with the quarterback again, you're still leaving him with a roster of really young rookies or not much there. I don't know. It's gonna depend so heavily on who this head coach is. I'd be super frustrated if it's Adam Gase. That's what it boils down to for me.
Yep, it can't. It really, it just can't.
Now, I'm looking at the chat a little bit. They're like, oh, is it the Jet? The Jets play the equivalent of calling in sick. They play at 50% speed. Ugh.
Yeah.
That's what, yeah, Adam Gase, or not Adam Gase, who was it? It was Greg Williams that said, we have 2 speeds in practice. It's go and
walk through.
I don't know. We walk through. Yeah. It's like, there's no like, oh, 75%, 50%. No. It's go or not go. I don't see it. Yeah, the defense doesn't seem to know that. It seems like they're all out of position. I will say this: the linebackers have been a huge issue for the Jets, and I think that has kind of hamstrung us more than we otherwise would have been.
Alec Ogletree should not be on any NFL roster.
No, he's putrid. All right, guys, let's give away a shirt here. Matt, give me a number 1 through 10.
Let's do 6.
6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so the winner of the shirt tonight is going to be Rube the Noob. Hit me up on the Flick chat. Send me a message so I know that is in fact you. And I will get you your information. I will get you a shirt. Detonator 10, right as we're heading out there, he goes, "Sup, sexy motherfudges. You guys are great. Go Jets." Thanks, dude. Thank you so much for that. Guys, we will be back here next week. But that is going to be the end of our show. And Matt, any last words for the panel?
Let's just keep being sad together. Keep watching our streams. Head over to my channel, watch our stuff. You know, Joe who came on, Green Bean, like we are all in this together. It's okay. This can be Jets therapy. We're not in this alone. That's my only positive spin zones. I got nothing else, Rye.
I think we need to get away from the Talkin' Jets panel and just call it Misery Loves Company. I think that might have to be what this is. It's a therapy session for all of us. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Make sure you hit that like button if you like the content that you see. Check out Matt and Green Bean and Joe's links down in the description down below. We'll be back here next week. Thank you so much, Matt, for coming on again. And this is Jets Talk signing off. Jets.